Catastrophic Hurricane Maria is about to make landfall in the island of Dominica. I'm Mike Naso from the Tropical Update page with an update on a very quick intensifying hurricane. This morning, Maria was a Category 1, it's now a Category 5. It took note of the favorable conditions, and it was a very small hurricane, and that has allowed it to sprout into a monster. You can see there on the satellite imagery, wonderful outflow and ventilation all around it. A tiny, what they call the dreaded pinhole eye, because oftentimes when hurricanes get little pinhole eyes, that means the pressure is going to fall rapidly and the hurricane is going to strengthen very quickly, which has happened with Maria, unfortunately. Now, here's the special update advisory as of 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Hurricane Maria was at 15.3 north, 61.1 west. Maximum sustained winds were at least 160 miles per hour, gusting close to 200. It's a Category 5, as bad as you get, again. It's moving west-northwest now at only 9 miles per hour. So this is moving slower than it was before. 925 millibars on the pressure, and that is a very low barometric pressure for a hurricane anywhere in the world, let alone, again, for these poor Caribbean islands. This has happened before. In 1979, a Category 4 went over the island of Dominica. That was Hurricane David. It destroyed 75% of that island, and this is stronger than that. So even though it's a rare event, it's hard to imagine it happening if you haven't experienced it, but we're experiencing it now, big time. Actually, as I'm speaking to you, we have a new update from the National Hurricane Center in Miami, Florida. As of 9 p.m. Atlantic Standard Time, the eye of Category 5 Hurricane Maria is moving onshore. It's at 15.3 north, 61.2 west, and you can see the pressure's dropped a little more to 924 millibars. So an extremely dangerous, catastrophic Category 5 landfall on the island of Dominica. So it's happening in real time, trying to give you guys the latest updates here. You can see the forecast from the Hurricane Center does have this monster hurricane slamming into Puerto Rico sometime on Wednesday afternoon, between Wednesday morning and Wednesday night, as a Category 4 or 5 hurricane, and then right up through the Turks and Caicos by Friday, and then finally starting to see some indication that maybe this thing will start to turn north away from the rest of the Bahamas. And you can see the computer models here are in decent agreement up until the Turks and Caicos, and then some of them want to take it a little closer to the southeast, some want to take it more towards Bermuda, maybe somewhere right in the middle. It's all dependent on what happens to Hurricane Jose up there to the north as it spins around and weakens and creates a little bit of an opening there, maybe for Maria to move north, although a lot of the models slow her down, and she could be a big system that way as well. There's the latest satellite imagery of this Category 5 hurricane making landfall on Dominica. You could see in the last image there the EYEWALL, as the Hurricane Center mentioned, moving onshore the southern half of the island. It's a very populated island. You know, Barbuda, which was obviously destroyed from Irma, that had about 16,000 people. This has 73,000 as of last count. And they did not have nearly as much time to get ready for Maria as they did for Irma. So let's just hope that everybody makes it out okay. I was listening to a radio station still broadcasting, and it was very eerie, the beautiful Caribbean music contrasted with the approach of a catastrophic, once in every 40-year type of hurricane at least. So very devastating hit on Dominica, and then from there it will continue just south of the Virgin Islands, although you guys are under the watches and warnings for obvious reasons, towards Puerto Rico, where all preparations, especially on the southern end of the island, need to be rushed to completion. There's the radar out of Guadeloupe and Martinique. You can see the eye of the hurricane is making landfall there. The eye of Hurricane Maria, a Category 5 storm, making landfall directly over Dominica. And there's Guadeloupe off towards the north, and you can see Martinique to the south. Again, Maria is a very compact hurricane, but that allowed it to strengthen and organize very quickly. Ragged storms have a hard time coming together, but this one did not. And you can see it's keeping that west-northwest heading very slowly at 9 miles an hour. We do have islands like St. Croix and the Virgin Islands off to the north. If this thing does deviate, Guadeloupe, you'd be in the right front quadrant. So you guys, especially on the south and western edge of Guadeloupe, need to be on the alert. Okay, this is a very serious hurricane. As mentioned, the water temperatures for Hurricane Maria, very, very warm there in the northeast Caribbean Sea. That won't be a problem at all for intensification. And you can see the wind shear right over the top of it that allowed it to strengthen. Look at that. Look at the blues on that map. That is little to no wind shear. This thing had dramatically low wind shear, and that has allowed it to get as strong as it has over the last 24 hours. And so the low wind shear, the warm waters, and the tight coiling circulation allowed the explosive development we've seen today right prior to a landfall on Dominica. Now, this was Hurricane David back in '79. This hit Dominica as a Category 4, not a Category 5 like Maria, but it was the last time a hurricane this strong hit. But 1979, you're talking, what, almost 40 years. So I know it's hard for people to imagine, like, why are all these hurricanes happening? But trust me, folks, they have happened. We just didn't used to have as many people living on the coasts. But the other thing is, we didn't used to have as good a warning systems and forecasting tools as we do now. So you guys could always be prepared for these things, even when they develop rapidly like Maria. Hopefully the people in Dominica took it seriously the last couple of days, as we knew it was going to be a significant hurricane. Not quite as significant as it has turned out to be, though. There's another look at monstrous Maria headed right into Dominica. In fact, this image is a little bit old, and you can see that little eye wall. Look at that. Looks like, I mentioned the same thing back with Hurricane Jose when it was so strong. It looks like somebody took a green blob and took a white pencil and just drew a perfect little circle. And it's within that little circle that those winds could be gusting towards 200 miles an hour, especially in the higher elevations. There are a lot of mountains on Dominica, and you can see as the hurricane will move across the island, it will then move towards Guadeloupe, the right side. You guys are going to get buffeted, especially if you have the onshore flow here on the south edge of the island. And then from there, Montserrat, where of course the south end of that island you're not allowed in because of the volcanic activity 20 years ago. Some people might not know that, but yeah, that's true. And then it's going to move on up, and then you have St. Kitts and Nevis, areas that started to get impacted by Hurricane Irma, and then from there it's going to move very, very close to St. Croix, and then we go towards Puerto Rico by Wednesday. And areas like Ponce and San Juan, you guys could all be impacted very, very badly by this extremely dangerous hurricane. So that'll do it for this landfall update. Another landfall of another Category 5 hurricane, Hurricane Maria, making a devastating landfall on the island of Dominica in the Leeward Islands at this hour on September 18th, 2017. A catastrophic catastrophic Leeward Island landfall from a very devastating Hurricane Maria.